I did both my community service and my internship at Martha Jefferson Hospital, which was not always the plan, but it ended up being the best place that I could be. I'll explain that a little bit later on. It's a beautiful hospital. This is the new hospital. It was built, I think, in 2008. I think that really had an impact on the employees there that are now, I think, happier and more willing to work harder now that they're such in a beautiful environment. And I will say that the color scheme of the hospital is incredibly similar to high school, and it's kind of I worked in the emergency department for both my community service and my internship, so this is a really artsy picture. It took one night. Very proud of it. I'm just going to go through a couple of geographical things in the hospital first. I lovingly call this place the pit, and I don't think anyone else called it the pit, and I don't think I ever said that out loud. But this is what I think of as the pit in the emergency room. It's a ring of desks and computers that the emergency room physicians sit at and use to work on their diagnoses and treatments, and they look up their charts for the patients they're about to see. They put in orders to get tests run on those patients. They see prior test results. Everything happens here. And then the rooms, the actual patient rooms, are situated in a ring outside of the pit. This is the nurse's station. The pit is actually through that door over in this area. At one point in time, I think I was probably in 8th grade, I considered being an emergency room nurse for a little bit. So it was kind of fun to see like how their jobs were different than the emergency room doctor that I want to be now. But I am confident that I made the correct decision at this point to pursue a career as a physician rather than a nurse. So for my community service, I actually started my project in the spring of my junior year. I knew that I'm super busy. I'm in 4 sports a year. I'm in governor's school. I'm in tons of college classes. I knew that my best bet would be to get as much of this project out of the way before the school year started as possible. I intended to do my internship first, since that's what's recommended if you're going to start early. So I found this program. It was the Martha Jefferson Hospital Junior Volunteers Program in a certain area, so I signed up and I submitted my application to be in the ER, and I got accepted, and I started filling out all the paperwork. I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, I'm gonna have my internship out of the way. I'll be able to find new service and legacy throughout the rest of the school year. Awesome. False. The work I ended up doing over the summer was in no way, shape, or form an internship, and it was kind of menial labor. My most common job was cleaning the rooms after the patients were dismissed, changing bed sheets and spraying things down with a horrible disinfectant and throwing away urine samples, which is about as fun as it sounds. But at the same time, I was in the area that I knew I wanted to pursue a career in. I was really passionate about being in the hospital and being where I wanted to work. It's really, when you go into something like ER medicine, you think about the fun parts of it, like the panicked ambulance arriving at the door, and you're like, how can I save this? I'm sorry, that might not sound fun to everybody. That's what's fun for me. You think about the ambulance arriving at the door, and this person arrives, it's bleeding, you're like, okay, what do I have to do first? You think about the triage, and that's what, obviously as a junior volunteer, as a 17-year-old high school student, I knew I wouldn't be involved in any of that, especially since Martha Jefferson is not a Trauma 1 center, so they don't get the very exciting or in most cases fearful cases. But I knew that I would still be involved in the process, and that's what I was really looking for, and that's what I enjoyed about this part of my project. So I got a nice little name tag that let me into secure places, which was nice. I worked 35 hours at the hospital this summer, which I'm proud to say was going above and beyond for the program requirements. Program requirements were, I think, 18 hours, and I just started picking up more and more shifts because I knew that it was helping me, and I knew that I was, despite the menial and oftentimes gross things I was doing at the hospital, I was still enjoying it, and I was in the world of medicine, and that's what I was really looking for. My mentor during this time was an ER technician by the name of Ernie Vitolo, and he is not very good at putting things on Facebook, so this is a picture of him wearing women's sunglasses and also being a scuba diver, so props to him. Ernie has been an ER technician, I think he said for 15 years, don't quote me on that, and he also part-time runs squad at the Lake Monticello Rescue Fire Department. So it was really cool to not only see job that I was looking at being involved with from a different perspective, because again, ER technician is not ER nurse or an ER doctor. It's a little bit in between. And it's also nice to see somebody who's from my community and like we knew some of the same people. So it's really nice to have a little bit of familiarity in a place that I was almost completely on my own. So for my internship, I knew that I had to find something else to do since the 35 hours I spent throwing away urine samples was not going to be okay to roll with. After spending almost 40 hours at Martha Jefferson, I wanted to try to work at UVA. One of the biggest reasons why was because, as I said before, Martha Jefferson is not a trauma 1 center. They only get car crashes that occur under the speed of 35 miles an hour. They get an ambulance maybe once every hour or every 45 minutes if it's serious. And a lot of the patients were 85-year-old people who were presenting with weakness, which is kind of to be expected once you start hitting that age. And there's only a few things we can do for them. So you walk into a room and a senior citizen says that, I'm sorry, like, I can't sit up. And you're like, I'm sorry too. And then they give you some medicine and they give you a little bit higher supply of nutrient food. And then they go home. And while that's, just as important as everything else, it's not exactly what I saw myself doing while in the ER. So for my internship, I tried as hard as I could to get in at UVA, and I called in probably 8 contacts, and nothing could make it happen. So I said, all right, I've got a family friend who is actually an ER doctor at Martha Jefferson. I'll just try to shadow him, and that's what I ended up doing. So Dr. Mike Baylor is a 25-year, I was going to say veteran, but I don't think this applies here. He's worked at Martha Jefferson for about 25 years now. Here he is, also doing fun things on Facebook. And that's a picture I took of him working as a computer. I consider myself to be a fairly intelligent person, but working alongside Mike is like completely out of my league. He would go onto his computer and memorize the statistics for like 8 cases at once. He's like, okay, we've got a 20-year-old chest pain patient in room 4, and then we've got a 35-year-old person with a broken arm in room 6. He would do that for like 8 patients, and then we'd go to all those rooms, and he'd remember their testing, like what they had tested, what they were going to do next. He'd remember what their names were and how they got the injuries they had, like consistently. Like I don't think I saw him get a single person wrong. I'm like, okay, we're in room 8. I think that was a broken arm, and I walk in, it's chest pain. I'm like, okay, maybe I need a little bit more practice with this, but that's okay. He's got a great year more schooling than I do at this point. So my internship was really successful. I worked about 14 hours with Dr. Baylor, shadowing him. Perhaps it's not exactly what I wanted to do, but I'm well aware that as a 17-year-old high school student, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of hands-on medicine in the emergency room. And I knew that going in, so I didn't have my expectations set too high, but it was really nice that Mike really kept me involved with his thought process. He's like, okay, we just had a 55-year-old man present with chest pain. The automatic thing you think with chest pain is heart attack, but his troponin levels aren't raised, so he has no heart stress. So what's our next step? And every now and then I got one of his questions right, and that made me feel great. So the significance of my project, when has medicine not been significant? I think that along with, the advancement of digital technology, medicine's probably the thing that's improved the most over the past 100 or 200 years. We're no longer having people, the life expectancy has doubled in the past 300 years. People were living to their 50s maybe. Of course, the life expectancy now is about 80, so that's not quite double, but close enough. The significance of medicine, it's literally saving lives. I might be a little biased and say it's the most significant thing that we do, but I think it is definitely one of the top significant things that we do. So for my research paper, I looked into how methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus and Clostridium difficile affect hospitals and those environments. I said 2 very large words. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus much better as MRSA, and Clostridium difficile is better known as C. diff. And both of those are infections that a lot of people end up catching while they're in the hospital. That's obviously a problem. You don't go to the hospital to get sicker than you already are. So these diseases are becoming more and more rampant and widespread in the American healthcare system, and we haven't been very successful at defeating them. So the problem with defeating them is you'll notice that methicillin is an antibiotic. So how do you fight a disease that is already resistant to the very drugs you would use to defeat it again? The current answer is by throwing worse drugs at it. Well, that's only going to work to a certain point. This Staphylococcus aureus has a very short lifespan, which means that it reproduces very quickly. It did not take long for it to become resistant to methicillin. The current drug that they're using to fight it is most commonly known as vancomycin. Well, there already is vancomycin-resistant Staph aureus out there, and it's only going to become more widespread as we continue to use that drug to combat it. So I looked at what's the next best way, because we can't continue to depend on antibiotics to fight these type of infections. Well, the best way not to, deal with it is to not catch it in the first place. The problem with that is these diseases and these infections are being spread by doctors. They go into one room and they treat a patient, and then they go to the next room and treat the patient, and inadvertently give the second patient whatever the first patient had, which ends up being MRSA a lot of the time. Well, to combat that, they need to wash their hands. But the proper way to wash your hands in the hospital to be completely sterilized involves taking 2 minutes and 30 seconds between rooms, removing all rings, jewelry, bracelets, and washing up to your elbows. No doctor is going to do that between each room. It's going to be an entirely huge portion of time lost. And eventually it's going to start costing the hospital money and patients their health. But on the other hand, you have patients' health being cost anyway because they're catching MRSA in a place where they're supposed to be healed. So we've come up with a couple of strategies that are still getting off the ground. One of them is infusing bed sheets with copper, because for some reason that seems to stop the spread of MRSA. Actually, Sentara is a large hospital organization, and one of the Sentara hospitals down in Norfolk recently did an experiment on the copper-infused bed sheets, and their MRSA levels dropped dramatically. It's not a perfect answer, though. I mean, obviously the best thing would be for us to get rid of MRSA entirely, but until we can get to that point, we can just continue to get doctors to wash their hands more frequently. The best thing that we can do at this point is to find some sort of soap or hand gel that lasts between patients. If you could wash your hands once and be sterilized for 24 hours, no matter what you came into contact with, that would be ideal. We're not at that point, though, so we have to keep doing the basic things until we get to that point. So again, the answer is we don't have one. The best thing we can do is continue to wash your hands, which is a really, really basic answer that a lot of scientists aren't really satisfied with, and for good reason, because it's only a temporary solution. Okay, so my advice for rising seniors in governor's school, well, I'm the 13th person to present today, so there's not a whole lot I can tell you that haven't heard already. Nate, I actually didn't procrastinate too much on this project, which is odd for me, but I think the best thing that you can do is find something you're passionate about. I know that when I was I went and started my internship over the winter during swim season, so I missed Wednesday swim almost every week, and I'm okay with that too. Swim isn't the most fun sport I do. But I remember coming home, I would leave directly from school. It's like 4 o'clock when I get into town. And I'll start my internship until 9 o'clock or 10. By the time I get home, my parents have already gone to bed. But I go into their room and I tell them everything I saw that day because I was so excited to share it with somebody. And they get up at 4:30 in the morning. They weren't always that pleased with me. But I think just being passionate enough to want to share what you had learned. I know that some of my journal responses were better than others. And I think the best ones were the ones where I described how happy I was with what I was learning and how much I was excited about continuing to do this career for the rest of my life. So finding a topic that you're really passionate about and something that you really want to learn was one of the best things that I did, and I don't think I would do that differently. The only thing I would do differently, I don't know how I would accomplish it, but I would try to get an UVA. I did send 8 emails and got 8 no's, so not sure who I would contact, but somebody is bound to let me in somewhere. For my future plans, I plan to attend the University of Virginia in the fall, which I am super excited about. You'll notice that I did wear UVA earrings. I was wearing UVA gear every day this week, and coming to this presentation, someone asked me, well, what are you going to wear on Friday? I said, well, I think I have a sweatshirt left, Betty. Remember your presentations, right? So I'm not wearing a UVA sweatshirt, unfortunately. Um, but the long term is after I finish my undergraduate studies at UVA, I will go on to medical school and try to become an ER doctor. I'm well aware that that is a lot more schooling for somebody who's as riddled with senioritis as I am, but I'm so excited and passionate about this subject that I don't think that's going to be an issue for me. I think that's it. Any questions? Yes.
I have a little experience in emergency medicine, ran the cars, and during that time, I met a number of people in school at UVA going for their nursing or towards becoming a doctor, and they went through the EMT course and rescue. Thought they might.
That's one of my summer plans. This year, for the first time in probably my entire life, I'm not actively planning on playing a sport over the summer, so that opens up my schedule a lot. I was planning on running an EMT course. It does take a while to complete, but if I got it, I would be able to run squad while I'm at UVA. And I'm actually really excited about that idea. I'm not sure if it'll happen yet, but I'm hoping.
Do you think any of that?
I was not. I took an introduction to health and medical sciences class in 8th grade, but my schedule was so full from basic AP classes and as well as governor school that I didn't get a chance. I really wanted to take medical terminology this year, but I ended up being a fine arts credit short, so I was in AP art history instead, which was an equally awful decision.